I doubt there are many people who have lived without experiencing the feeling of love. Whether it's for someone in your life, your family, your friends, or someone you admire. Maybe it's the love of a hobby you throw yourself into, writing, playing sports, or gardening. It might be for your car, your pets, your weekend off work, or maybe even work itself. Or maybe it's as simple as a feeling of the warmth of the sun on your face. Love is everywhere. It's a pleasant feeling. It can provide us with a skip in our step and put a smile on our face. Some say that love is the answer. It is no surprise that we love the things in life that we think are good for us. Family, hobbies, leisure time, things that benefit us and make life easier and more enjoyable. But it isn't without its pitfalls though. Most of us have been burned by love. It might have been snatched away from us unexpectedly. It might have made our lives more complicated at times. We will say we're swearing off love, yet it is such a powerful force we often find ourselves back in love before we realise it. It really is a complicated and at times an overriding emotion. Nations have gone to war over it, families have been torn apart, friendships destroyed, lives taken and lost, all due to it. All over things that we feel are good for us. It is undeniable that love is a fundamental part of the human experience. Of course, for as many things in our lives that we love, there are many more that we don't. From having to get up on a cold winter's morning, paying bills, traffic jams, through to pain, illness, injury and death. These are, for the most part, things that are inevitable in life. We cannot avoid them. They are then essentially our fate. They can cause us to experience hardship, to choose to feel unhappy and frustrated, dissatisfied, angry and resentful. None of which serve to improve our quality of life. In fact, some of these things we feel opposed to can be our ruin if we don't exercise caution. In this episode, I'm going to show you, using the teachings of Stoic greats like Epictetus, Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, along with my own experience, how we can remove these obstacles and hurdles, these feelings of frustration and anger, how we can uncomplicate our lives using love, specifically the love of what we can't avoid, our fate. Or as the German philosopher Nietzsche coined it, Amor Fati. As I pointed out, what we love is also what we want, what we desire. But what about the events or things in our lives that we don't want and can't avoid? What do we do with these? No doubt you too have experienced this, something that happened to you that you cannot change, that you are stuck with. It's natural for us to oppose this, to fight against what happened. It follows logic that if there is something you don't want, you will try to get rid of it. Kick and scream against it, push back and fight. This all takes energy though, wasted energy, as it doesn't change what awaits us, our fate. This was exactly my experience nearly 30 years ago. After a severe motorcycle accident, I found myself in a position where I would spend the rest of my life facing a fate that anyone would fight against. With a spinal cord injury, I would not only need to navigate my way through life with a paralysed upper limb, but of much greater significance was the burning, stabbing, crushing, tearing, unrelenting pain. Now, as accepting as I was of my newfound situation as a 22-year-old, it was only natural for me to fight against this pain. And this isn't just your run-of-the-mill pain either, if there is such a thing. It is pain that can envelop your entire being. It might radiate from my shoulder to my fingertips, but it tears through every fibre of my body when it's at its peak. I fought against it with pills, nearly 40 a day. They had very limited impact, numbing me as a person rather than my pain. On my doctor's advice, we increased dosages and tried new options, still to no avail. Giving up on all medication, I fought against it with my will. I tried desperately to push it back down, but doing so only seemed to make it push back even harder. So I replied in kind, pushing back even more. Believe me, with this type of pain, fighting back is natural and seemed like the only answer, even though it, never really answered anything. And yet still my pain was essentially winning this battle. I was surviving, but not winning. On top of that came the mental and physical fatigue, tiredness that saps you of all your resources and ability. Not only was I being thrown around by this new companion I had in life, but my opposition to its presence was making my experience much, much worse. And with every new flare I faced, where the pain would spike to unbelievable levels, I was already fatigued from the previous battle I'd just been through, and that was most likely only minutes ago. This wasn't working, and it certainly wouldn't work long term. I had to find a method to cope with this in a healthier way, or I would suffer for the rest of my life. I've often heard and read of people describing pain, especially long-term pain or chronic pain, as their enemy, and this is understandable. We say that pain attacks us and it waits in ambush. Pain can hold us back, restrict us from doing what we want when we want. It is an interruption to our already busy lives. If it is short-term pain, well, this can be dealt with. Time will take its course along with painkillers and life will return to normal. Our enemy departs and we can pick up the pieces and rebuild. But chronic pain puts you in a different position and therefore requires a different approach. One that I found would aid me in every aspect of life. While others might describe pain as their enemy, for me it was always just a companion. However, it was still an unwanted companion, one that I wished would leave me. But here it was, and it wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. This opposition I had could go on the rest of my life, fighting a losing battle against an invisible, unbeatable force. I don't remember the first time I dropped the fight, but I certainly remember the feeling, as I still get it to this day. It would be best described as euphoric, a feeling of warmth and strength that came from within. The pain had less effect on me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the intensity was less. It still hurt like all hell, but my mood was unaffected. My outlook, while always positive, took less of a beating. I felt stronger, I felt on top of the world. More importantly though, I felt on top of my pain. All from dropping my resistance to my fate. I was no longer mentally exhausted from the fight, nor felt physically drained after every flare. And my body wasn't harmed by this approach. Rather, my character was strengthened. Fighting the pain, well, it was always a defensive tactic to protect myself from what I didn't want. But now I could clearly see that fighting it was actually doing me harm. Not fighting what I couldn't avoid was protecting me. This feeling, this realization was life-changing. I no longer feared the flares that would hit me almost countless times a day. Instead, I now welcomed them. My anxiety around what the pain had in store for me was gone, and this had a knock-on effect that I would only realize later. The duration and frequency of these flares reduced. I wasn't in control of my pain, but I was in control of how I responded to it, and this made it less intrusive, easier to live with. But could I love it? Would that even be possible? I didn't know it at the time, but dropping the fight was the starting point to learning how to love my fate, my journey toward Amor Fati. Within the teachings of Stoicism, we find a strong emphasis on acceptance of what nature or life brings us, to not fight against what we cannot change. Seneca tells his close friend in Letters from a Stoic that we must conform to what nature sends us. Epictetus lectures his students on true freedom coming from having events be in accordance with our will. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations reminds himself to welcome with affection what is sent by fate, and that every event is the right one. As almost to hammer this point home to me, he tells himself that his people will say that the doctor prescribed such and such for him, to also say nature prescribed illness for him, or blindness, or the loss of a limb. It would have been great for me to have read of Marcus's words nearly 30 years ago, but I hadn't even heard of the man nor Stoicism up until a few years back. But nature prescribed that for me. I needed to find my way first, and my nature led me to these techniques. Later, when I would read the teachings of these Stoic greats, I realized that the path I was on was the right one. While dropping the fight was indeed the catalyst to love and ultimately choose and want my fate, my injury, it would require me to cross a few more bridges before getting there. It is with the benefit of hindsight that I can see what these bridges would be made from. Some of them are constructed from experiences and opportunities I've had, some from the lessons I've been lucky to have learned, and others from the people who have come into my life, all of these as the result of this journey I'm on. This experience has taught me so many vital tools. It has given me the opportunity to inspire and help other people I never would have met otherwise. Most importantly to me, my 3 children were all born after my accident. Had that day not happened the way it did, well, my life would have taken another direction, one in which they would not have been born. I love my children. I love the lessons and skills I've learned. I love that I get to make a difference in other people's lives for the better. And I can't forget what I owe all these things for. My accident, my injury, my pain, my fate. It's not a long draw of the bow then to see that if I can love all these wonderful things my journey has brought me, then I should also love what started it all. I now see that my companion, who I thought was taking so much from me and I wanted gone, had actually brought me so much. Not an enemy at all then. Let's pivot back for a moment though, to when I said that we love what we want, what we desire, and what we see as good for us. How can pain and impairment fit these criteria? Well, first up, this is my fate. It has already been more than half my life with it. It will be here tomorrow, next week, next month, and quite possibly until the day I depart this existence. So that leaves me with three options: fight against it, be indifferent about it, or want it. I don't need to explain why fighting my fate, my reality, isn't an option. Being indifferent would be a better choice, but as I've stated before in my podcast and videos, one that doesn't allow me to fully take advantage of this gift. Wanting it, however, well, that puts the ball firmly in my end of the court, and it's up to me how I play it. I'm not on the back foot when I want the shot. I'm on the front foot, dictating the play of the game. Wanting it means I don't need to complain about it. It allows me to learn more, to sharpen my skills. So much so that I relish the times when it's testing me as hard as it can, because I know I'll come away stronger and better equipped, and that it cannot harm me. Think of something in your life that you enjoy and want to be better at, if not the best. Maybe it's a sport like tennis, football, or swimming. It could be any skill. No doubt you will want the services of someone to teach you, someone who will push you harder than you could yourself, someone to crack the whip when you feel like you have given it all and lift you to new levels of performance. You wouldn't want them to be easy on you, to make things soft and comfortable. That won't help you in the heat of competition. Epictetus tells his students that the true person is revealed in difficult times, and to prepare ourselves best for this, we need to be like a wrestler who seeks out the toughest training partner to prepare him best for battle. They want the hardest training to become the best version of themselves. That's what I get every day. I get some of the hardest training from this experience, and it has revealed to me who I am and made me the best version of myself. The skills I've learnt from this have been applicable to every facet of my life and have prepared me well for other hurdles and challenges I have faced. So much so that I not only now love and want this, but I choose to have it. That approach doesn't earn me many friends in the pain community. I've been vilified for it, but the opinions of others do not deter me from doing what is good for me and those around me. I've created so much good from this experience, and I know I'm only at the tip of the iceberg of what there is to discover and create. Choosing to have adversity in your life may seem to be nonsensical. And look, if I was uninjured and given the choice to have this injury or not, you can bet your bottom dollar I wouldn't choose it. But here's the thing, that isn't an option I have. I can't choose to not have it. So instead, I choose to have it. This is such an important concept for me, so much so that many years ago, by chance, I developed my own saying. When you don't have a choice, consider your choice already made. This is about taking ownership of where we find ourselves in life, not giving it up. We might not be responsible for where we find ourselves, but we are responsible for what we do about it. And when you choose to have something in your life, no matter what it is, you don't have a need to complain about it, nor waste time and energy trying to avoid it. Every single one of us has found ourselves in situations we'd rather not go through, but we don't have a choice. Whether it's a life-changing injury or just getting out of bed on a cold winter's morning to go to work, we face this with some degree of opposition. To stay tucked up in bed would be great, nice and warm in our comfortable spot. But there are bills that need paying, commitments to uphold, we have responsibilities, and we tell ourselves that we don't have a choice. And it's this not having a choice that is the biggest obstacle we will face. As Epictetus tells us, it is we who make difficulties for ourselves. For example, when we complain about or fight against our fate. Marcus Aurelius tells himself, the soul becomes dyed by the colour of its thoughts. The more we complain, the more we fight, the more we suffer. When we are faced with this sort of situation, that cold morning, the meeting we must attend, that difficult conversation we need to have with someone, a situation we can't avoid, we can improve our outlook by making the only option available the one we choose. This saying of mine, making the only choice our choice, rings true to what Stoicism teaches, having our will in accordance with what nature sends us. Let's take the example of having to attend a meeting at work that you'd rather not be at. You have no choice whether you go or not. Your attendance is required. However, we still have a choice in front of us. We can approach the meeting with our heels dug in, dreading the event, wishing it would not go ahead. We will be uncomfortable in the meeting, shifting from side to side on our chair, looking at the clock, wishing it would go faster, getting frustrated as someone brings up yet another point that means it'll drag out even longer. Then we spend the rest of the day annoyed about the whole ordeal. Or we can approach it choosing to be there. We find ourselves more comfortable, we get involved, and now time flies. Before we know it, the meeting is over, and we leave feeling happy that we handled it well. We go about the rest of our day not frustrated over something out of our control, instead happy that we controlled how it affected us. Now, I'm not suggesting we love the meeting, just as I don't love pain or injury, but that we love our fate no matter what it holds for us. The options are we go through it kicking and screaming and pay the price for that, or we embrace what we must go through and make the most of it. Either way, we're still going to have to go through it, right? Just how it affects you is up to you. It isn't life or the events that we experience that determine the quality of our lives, it's our thoughts about them. Trying to avoid what is unavoidable is at the root of a lot of our frustration and angst in life. In Discourses, a collection of Epictetus's lectures written out by one of his pupils, we find Epictetus talking at length on desire and aversion. We will go in depth on the subject in a later video, but his words on the subject are fundamental to this topic. He is quoted as saying the following: "I must die, but must I die bawling? I must be put in chains, but moaning and groaning too? I must be exiled, but is there anything to keep me going with a smile, calm and self-composed?" In each example, one thing cannot be avoided, and one can. There are many things in life we cannot avoid, things that are out of our power, but what remains in our power at all times is our will, how we react, act and think. Trying to avoid what we cannot will only bring us feelings like frustration, sadness, anger and resentment. So, what can we avoid then? Choosing to hold on to these and other harmful feelings. Life or the events that make it up are not in control of how we feel, how we respond. Death is often feared and fought against. Most see it as something to be avoided, that it is bad. This can't be the case though. We cannot escape it, and as that is out of our power, death can neither be good nor bad. There are those that have willingly given up their life without fear, sadness or anger, those who have welcomed death, who have seen it as good for them. Therefore, it is not death that upsets us, it's the thoughts around it, thoughts of pain and suffering, thoughts of missing out, of believing it is good for us to keep living. But none of us are here forever. We need to move on and make room for those to come, just as those before us left to make room for us. Be at peace with this, and we will be at peace with death. We'll be at peace with and love our fate, because that feeling will help us live a little more while we're here, to appreciate these moments we have before they are gone. Loving our fate is not solely reserved for helping us with things that come our way that we don't want, but also the things we do want that don't come our way. Maybe your dream was to be a pilot, but eyesight issues put paid to that. Maybe you wanted that promotion, but got overlooked yet again. These too are a part of our fate, and to make them less painful, we can find good from these experiences and learn to love our role in life even if it wasn't what we hoped for. Hating the fact you got overlooked will not change the outcome, but will make it more unpleasant. What about the worst of the worst? A situation so horrific, so harsh, that to suggest to someone they love this would seem insulting. Well, the severity of the situation we find ourselves in does not alter the philosophy we live by. Regardless of what we face, we decide how this will impact us. I recently watched a documentary on a father meeting the man who had killed 3 of his young children whilst driving drunk and high. 3 beautiful young children snatched away from their family. This father was clearly devastated by his family's loss, yet he and his wife had love for the man who committed this horrific act. They not only accepted what had happened, but they turned it into something that strengthened them. This man had already stolen so much from them, they were not about to let hate for him steal anything more. So they chose to love where they find themselves. They still have 3 empty places in their lives, but they choose how this will affect them. I created good from my adversity that undeniably helped me to love my fate, and I firmly believe that there is always good that can be created from any situation. I share this belief with Stoicism, which teaches us that good and bad only exist within us, and that every situation presents us with opportunity. Whether it's a lesson learned, a new healthier perspective, or even to test and strengthen your character during times of hardship, using this good helps us to find our way to loving what we might have considered to be unlovable and pulls us out of our misery. I've been accused of just telling myself that I love my fate, and my accusers are 100% correct. But it's not just words. This is how I see life, how I feel. The events we go through do not dictate our feelings. They do not control the will. Again, death of a loved one is not always a time of sorrow. It can be a feeling of relief that someone who was suffering no longer is. It can be a celebration of someone's life, a time to be thankful for sharing moments with them. It is me who decides what my fate means to me. Just as I choose to love my fate, those that hate or fight against it are also choosing that response. You hate the job you're in? To someone else, that might be their dream job. You don't like your height? Someone else out there wishes they were your height. Again, it's not the things in our lives that dictate the quality of our lives. It is, as Epictetus and other great Stoic figures have taught, our thoughts around them. I may live with a permanent injury, with pain and impairment, but I know for a fact that there will be millions who would swap places with me in a heartbeat to improve their circumstances. They would see me as the lucky one, with a life that is beyond their dreams. Instead of saying we have to go to work or we have to take care of this, we can turn that into we get to go to work or we get to take care of this. Because there is someone out there that sees what you think of hardship as opportunity. Instead of saying this happened to me, see every event, as Marcus Aurelius said, as the right one and say this happened for me. If what you are facing is unavoidable, then you can either kick and scream against it and make your life more difficult than it need be to only complicate it further, or you can choose to love what can't be changed and find peace and tranquility and uncomplicate your life and make the most out of it. That choice is yours, always will be, and can't be taken from you. Only you can give it up. Is love the answer? If the question is how to face your adversity, your struggles, your fate, then yes it is. Loving my fate has uncomplicated my life. It has put me in control. It has allowed me to decide how life affects me. We can fight against what we can't change all we want, banging our head against a brick wall. But the wall remains undamaged, and all we have to show for our efforts is a sore head and frustration. Amor Fati takes away this frustration, this angst. It removes the hurdles that we place in front of ourselves. Making the only choice we've got, the one we choose, takes one less obstacle out of our way. No, it doesn't change the challenges we must face. They are still there. But I'd rather approach them with a skip in my step and a smile on my face than kicking and screaming. Love really is the answer. If you enjoyed this video and feel like it, please subscribe and leave a like and a comment. It really helps with getting the channel more exposure. Thanks very much.